There is a whole world of cinema out there to discover. You just have to overcome that 1-inch barrier known as subtitles. This is That 1-Inch Barrier, a foreign cinema podcast with myself, Nickel Barry, Josh Barry, Kieran Griffiths. Gentlemen, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Welcome to a very special Christmas episode of That 1-Inch Barrier, where we are talking about a foreign film today that is set on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And we thought that was basically meet the minimum requirements that we need for to cover it on the show. But as always, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. You can like it. You can subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support throughout the whole year for our show. And if you're listening, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you listen to the show, thank you very much for the support and for your listens. But getting into the Christmas spirit, I don't know of many international cinema films that are set around Christmas, but we had a handful there. Kieran jumped out with Tokyo Godfathers. So you want to give us a little rundown of what we'll be talking about today on the show?
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like the funny thing is we always think of like foreign films as these, you know, the better than you know, English language films, but I'm sure there are plenty of like shitty foreign Hallmark Christmas movies.
Could you imagine? We'll have to find one for next year. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Like the Dutch Hallmark movie is. Yeah.
But it's just the exact same premise of like some guy with like a single father who recently lost his wife. You know,
works in the factory.
Yeah, but also spends his time, you know, painting. It's his hidden talent. Has a bad relationship with his dad. Meets a woman.
This is very Hallmark. How many Hallmark movies have you seen?
Oh, mate, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about 2003 Japanese animated film called Tokyo Godfathers, directed by Satoshi Kon, who most people would know from his films Paprika and Perfect Blue. Yep. Tokyo Godfathers is probably one of his more well-known, but not sort of his big films. Mm-hmm. And essentially it follows these three homeless people just before Christmas who find a baby that's been abandoned in the trash, and they sort of see it as this Christmas miracle and their opportunity to try and reunite the baby with its family or, you know, find it a new home. And that's basically the whole premise, and it's just sort of this series of, you know, wacky adventures that these three get into, because the three homeless people are a teenage girl who's run away from home, an older guy who's sort of like an alcoholic who's lost his family, and then a transgender woman who lost her husband and has since become homeless. So it's like this real sort of, you know, ragtag group with a newborn baby in tow, wandering around Tokyo at Christmas.
Shenanigans ensue, I guess.
Pretty much,
yeah. So I'll admit this is my first Satoshi Kon film.
Mine as well.
There we go. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure we're all aware of sort of
aware of those two.
Yeah, and like the impact they have on not just anime cinema, I guess, or Japanese animated cinema, but Japanese cinema in general as well.
And other films in general. I mean, I think there's scenes from, I want to say Paprika, that Inception was heavily inspired by.
And I think they talk about Black Swan being heavily inspired by Perfect Blue as well. Okay.
So very influential director in Japan and overseas as well.
So all of it being our first one. And I guess as well, and this is probably just my preconception of it, I generally associate anime with action films, with things like Dragon Ball, with things, you know, that are these larger than life, often supernatural sort of storyline. So I think I had a bit of a surprise going into Tokyo Godfathers. I kind of expected that as well as when I first turned the movie on, because I didn't know too much about it, to that there was going to be some element of it that was, you know, I guess supernatural for lack of a better word. But this is very much just a human story. This is there are absolutely larger than life elements that get, especially as we get towards the end of the film. But I don't know if that was the same for you guys going into it. Were you kind of aware that this was just kind of a human drama?
I hadn't thought about it, but I was probably going in thinking more Ghibli.
Okay, totally. Which still has that fantastical, a lot of their films have fantastic elements to it,
Yeah, I mean, that's, like, I've watched a bit of, like, Japanese animated TV series, some of the more dramatic stuff, and I've watched a lot of the Studio Ghibli and the Miyazaki stuff.
Yep.
So I sort of, you know, knew it was probably going to be, that's the thing with animated stuff, right? Is people who don't watch a lot of it just assume that, it's animated, it must be for kids.
Yes.
This is definitely not a kid's movie.
Big discourse over the last few years, but Tokyo Godfathers especially is absolutely not for kids. Yeah.
I mean, even I went and watched Miyazaki's new film, The Boy and the Heron, at cinemas last week.
Right.
Definitely not a kids movie.
No.
Marketed towards them, that's for sure. It's
Yeah,
got, like, a
actually,
PG
I
rating
just found
here.
out yesterday my nephew wants to go and see it.
Right, okay.
Like,
He's a
seen
cultured.
the trailer.
He's a
Oh,
cultured
that's what I was
kid. Yeah,
thinking.
that's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Well, it's family behind me with like two parents and a kid who was probably like 5. Whole thing is just like, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening now?
Yeah.
Who's that? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna murder a child. It's gonna happen. This is how I end up in prison. But no, it's very much an adult, mature story. There's a lot of mature elements talking about things like addiction and loss and trauma and grief and all those pretty heavy hitting subjects for an animated film and a Christmas film.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's it.
But it's also really funny.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
It's really dark, but it's really funny. And it's very, very sweet in parts.
It's interesting. I did read, I believe it was Roger Ebert's review where he pretty much 2 words summed up was harrowing and heartwarming. And I think that's the best way to describe it, because it opens quite funny too. We're in the church and we have see 2 of the 3 homeless people. I can't remember all the names, unfortunately. Who are ultimately making like a mockery of the service that they're listening to and being like, oh yeah, well, if Jesus did love us all, we wouldn't be homeless and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny how that sort of mentality is there. And as we find out more about how these people became homeless and the tragic stories that led to it, it's a very interesting breakdown where I think the movie looks a lot at family that is chosen. I think that's a big theme of the film, especially after these tragic events, but also coincidence. If we really break down a lot of the events, I think it's done in a very sort of jesty sort of way. I think it's very intentional that a lot of the events that happen in this film are so coincidental that it's kind of funny, which to me kind of gave that Christmas spirit of the film.
Yeah.
Of course, all these things are happening on Christmas Day. So I kind of enjoyed that.
And I think
element.
if it was 1 or 2 of them, like 1 or 2 major coincidences that tie the plots together, like, oh, that's just lazy writing, that's dumb.
Yeah.
But because like every major plot point is born out of convenience, like people are just in the right place at the right time, they happen to bump into the right person or see the right thing that tells them the information they need to know. I think because it plays so heavily into it, it works.
Yeah, totally.
And there's just
even stumbling across the baby for the first time is purely coincidental because they left the church and they weren't going to go. I can't remember where they said they were going to go, but they weren't supposed to end up in that alley anyway.
No, they were basically having a fight in the rubbish.
And then they find you know what I mean? So I enjoy that sort of whimsical nature of coincidence that the film plays.
And like you said, it really does play into that, that Christmas theme of it, because I think a lot of Christmas films are kind of born out of that, things just happen out of coincidence because it's Christmas.
Christmas miracles.
Well, that's it.
Literally.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you can even go one step further to be like, what is the quote unquote, biggest miracle? And it's a child. So like they found the Christmas miracle. They found a child on Christmas. And I think, like even I watched, did my yearly watch of Love Actually last night.
Yes.
God, I hate how much I enjoy that movie.
It's so good. And it gets better with time.
It does. It does. But films like that are just, there's so much coincidence.
Yeah.
And it drives the plot forward. But here, rather than it feeling like here we go again, like everything just works out. It's like, oh, that's really sweet. That's funny.
It's really nice. I guess before we sort of break down the story of it as well, looking at the animation style, one of my favorite things I think I like about Japanese animation in general is that it is so heavily focused on emotion, facial reactions and stuff like that. So you can have a completely almost still frame of the environment, the background, the buildings or whatever. And there is so much emphasis on eyes and mouth and stuff as well. That it almost feels like that's where the primary, connection to the emotion is. And I love that animation style, but I have to admit the voice acting in this is brilliant. I'm sure we all watched the subbed version. We watched the traditional.
Imagine we do this on a foreign cinema podcast and we all watch the dubbed version.
I'm just checking because initially when the copy I rented didn't have English subtitles to start with, and I was like, oh God, am I going to have to? But then I ended up finding a copy irregardless.
Did you listen to it briefly?
About 2 or 3 minutes because it was the church service at the beginning. So I was like, am I supposed? And it was the kids singing Silent Night. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to have subtitles here because I know the tune of Silent Night.
Is there any
bold of them
is
to
there
assume?
Any big names for that or for the English or not?
No. Not really. No, I think it's all just other voice actors who have done a fair bit of work. But the voice acting in the Japanese language version is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
Everyone feels like, even though they're these characters whose faces are animated to be larger than life, there is such a heartfelt, emotional, visceral feeling in the voice acting. So I wanted to shout it out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Like, I'm hot take, but I don't actually mind watching animated stuff dubbed.
Yes.
No, I don't
I'll
mind.
watch a lot of the Studio Ghibli stuff dubbed because they get such great cast to do it.
Did you watch Boy and the Heron?
I did.
Dubbed? Yeah,
I did, yeah.
'Cause, I mean, what, Christian Bale, Robert
Florence
Pattinson,
Pugh, Willem
yeah.
Dafoe. Robert Pattinson in that is fantastic.
I've heard like you wouldn't even know it's him, right? Yeah,
No,
so-
I had no idea. So,
yeah.
but I don't mind dubbed
Yeah.
animated films because I
Yes.
think if they get the right people to do it, you can still convey the emotion and there's not that weird dissonance where the mouth doesn't match the sound. But here, I can't imagine not watching it subbed because those performances are so good. Especially, I think Miyuki, who's the teenage girl.
Yes.
Just like how sassy she is.
Yeah.
You know, because she's like this teenage girl who's run away from you know, an unhappy home, hanging out with this, you know, older alcoholic dude and this transgender woman who's sort of, you know, like just finds the baby and is like, oh, I can be its mother, like it's a Christmas miracle. I can never have kids of my own, and like this is my kid, and like so she's just like, you are all crazy.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you people? But also you're the family that I've chosen.
Like this is the level of dysfunction that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Sort of, It's that again, that family is chosen sort of mentality throughout the whole film. And I love Jin's story because like it can be so tough to sort of portray or try and find a connection, especially with an animated character who is so down and is an alcoholic, like you said. And, you know, normally in a real life performance, in a live action performance, there's probably a little bit more nuance in performances like that you can connect to. So to be able to do it through animation and through this sort of voice acting, and obviously his story as well, which how he became homeless is embellished up to a point where it's actually revealed what happened. But then he has this relationship with another homeless man who is, well, not homeless, but another old alcoholic man who he feeds him his final drink. And you kind of get this sad look at, is this the path that Jin's going down to? That scene was enough for me to be like, I don't want this guy to continue on this path anymore. He has this chosen family who loves him as dysfunctional as they are, literally fighting each other till they find a baby. And I think that's just a testament to how well written these characters are. And I think the connection that you have with these guys is quite frankly incredible. Like the script is very well put together. So, and then you have Hannah as well, who is
Hannah.
the comedic goddess of this film. Everything that came out of her mouth was hilarious as well.
Yeah.
This movie is also a product of its time, in a sense as well. I think obviously the use of homophobic slurs from Jin himself as well, to me, is kind of a double-edged sword because, yes, it's a movie that came out in 2003. I don't know if it's set in 2003. It doesn't necessarily, if I remember.
I think so, just based on sort of, you know, context clues and things like that. It's probably set around the right time.
Right time. And then there's definitely a lot of slurs that are dropped. Jin says them to Hannah, and Hannah never seems to take offense directly to them from what I remember.
Well, I think it's funny because she gets called a lot of things, you know, being a transgender woman.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I can remember her taking offense at is when I think Miyuki calls her an old shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And she gets annoyed and she's like, I'll take old, but I won't take shit.
Yeah.
Which I find really funny. But the thing, and obviously it's really easy for me to say as a straight white man in my 20s, but I think the thing with slurs and things like that and things that are appropriate or inappropriate for a time period is there's no point shying away from them.
Agreed.
Then
Yes,
I don't
totally.
think the slurs are played for laughs.
No, they never are.
I think that is something that a character like Jin would say to a character like Hannah.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes it more real.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, he's not checking to make sure he gets, you know, her pronouns right all the time because
totally.
that would be, you know, not how it would actually play out.
No.
But he shows that he does love her in
There's
other ways.
compassion there still as well. Yeah.
100%. I think it's funny as well that Hannah's other name that she goes by probably more often than Hannah is Uncle Bag.
Yes.
But yeah, it is a really funny film. Like I think it deceived me at how funny it could be.
Oh God, yeah.
And like the slapstick that comes across in the animation, like, you know, the things that people can do with their faces and their bodies and the situations they can get in.
Yes, yeah.
You can't do that in live action.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
For as funny as this film is, though, it does sprinkle throughout some pretty serious themes, and like we were talking about earlier, the grief, addiction, and things like that. And as more is revealed about the journey, about trying to get the baby to its parents, which initially isn't the plan. Hannah is so in love with the baby, wants to keep it for herself. But as they do try and find out, and they go down this string of coincidental events, the movie then deals with some pretty intense stuff as well. Do you think? Well, firstly, were you expecting it to be as hard hitting as it ended up being? You know,
no, probably not.
It caught you by surprise.
I thought we were probably just going into a quite light-hearted Christmas movie.
Yeah,
to be honest. Yeah.
No, I'm the same. I think, you look at the fact that there's like an assassination attempt of a crime boss,
mafioso,
like a Yakuza boss. We're talking about like people
who, as well, speaking of coincidence, is directly linked to Jin as well. When Jin sees him at that event and is basically almost going to kill him himself, it's, again, funny coincidence.
That's it. Everything's interconnected.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
But no, it dealt with a lot of like heavier themes than I was expecting. Like there is a scene of, a woman about to commit suicide by jumping off of a bridge before she's stopped by Miyuki and Hannah. I was like, this is dark.
Yeah.
This is a very dark
Christmas
doesn't
film. Stop there either, especially as it's racing towards the.
Well, you get your action at the end.
We do get action at the end, which I have things to say about. But
I did not expect to see a car chase in this
the Christmas
film.
Eve car chase.
It really has it all.
But then I guess as well, looking at the tonal differences between the humor, which again we've said is has those slapstick elements, but also does feel quite grounded within the story it's telling. And then looking at how heavy the film goes, do you think there was any issues tonally? Did you find that it all actually kind of evolved well?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of. I mean, even things that you kind of probably shouldn't be laughing at are then funny for a moment.
Totally.
One that stands out for me is where they go and find Jin's house and it's burnt down.
Yeah.
And then he tries the key. Opens it up and they're like, well, I'm home. And then the door just falls behind him. I'm
like the door's the only thing left.
That's
through
right.
it anyway.
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but that is really funny. So I think they do, and I think they blend that really well.
Yeah.
I probably saw it more as, like you sort of said, sprinkled with that. The serious part, I probably saw it more serious with sprinkled with those.
With the comedy?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job of that.
Yeah, I mean, Wikipedia describes it as a tragicomedy.
Yeah.
Which definitely makes sense. Like, I think it does balance drama and humor really well.
Yeah. Somewhat ahead of its time then as well, because the tragicomedy, I feel like, became a lot more mainstream probably in the 2010s and even more so now as well. I don't necessarily call, I guess, for a Americanized comparison, Judd Apatow movies aren't tragic comedies, but they are comedies that do deal with human dramas. Whether you enjoy them or not is a different thing, but that became a lot more mainstream in that early. But this is 2003, and for it to be so, and it's not a black comedy. I guess you could say it's not necessarily making fun of dark things or trying. It's a tragic comedy.
No, and I think a lot of black comedies
very ahead of its time.
Don't necessarily have like the genuine heartfelt moments.
Yes,
I mean, tragic comedy in modern contexts is it's sort of really peaked, I think, post 2000s, but it's obviously, you look at a lot of like old Greek literature or Shakespeare stuff.
Good point. Yeah.
A lot of Shakespeare stuff is tragic comedy. You think of testing my year 10 English here, but like A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Much Ado About Nothing sort of stuff.
Very tragic comedy.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
But I think it balances it really well. I think as well, again, because it's animated, it can get away with stuff a little bit more.
Yeah,
I think live action, that tonal whiplash might have been a bit different.
Yep.
But I think because it's animated, they play by sort of a different set of rules, and we have different expectations and things like that going into it.
Yeah.
But I think it balanced it really well. I didn't think like, oh wow, that's like a weird funny moment that feels out of place. So this is a bit dramatic for the fact that we were just laughing 2 minutes ago. Like it swings wildly, but I think it handles it well.
It is interesting to really think about that about animation.
Yeah.
Like because I think a lot of people sometimes think, why not do this live action? Like why do an animation?
Yeah.
But you're right. Like you can definitely get away with different things, and
that's why we still haven't had a live action Akira yet. Imagine doing that one. Imagine pulling that off in live action.
I think some things.
Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah, some things just don't work in live action. Just in the same way that I don't think some things would work animated.
Which is telling for this movie, you know what I mean? Like, because like I said, this is the sort of story I would expect to just see in a live action drama.
True.
You know, it's absolutely not what I was anticipating, but I think you're right. When that tonal whiplash happens, when it goes to the more absurdities of its ending, where it ramps up, it goes from about a 7 to an 11 pretty quick.
Yep.
The animation does help digest that pill a little easier.
Is Broker like at all?
So
influenced by
I was
this?
thinking
Because
about
if
this
you
too.
Kind of think about that. It's kind of a tragicomedy.
Yep.
It's similar thing they find.
It's about family chosen. It's about coincidence.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like,
I love Broker as well. What a great movie.
Yeah.
It's an interesting comparison because it has a lot of similarities, and obviously one is Broker is Korean, I believe. Yeah.
It's
I'm trying to remember. Monster. He made Monster.
Koreeda.
Yeah, Koreeda. That's right. So there's some interesting comparisons, but then as well, the comedic elements. I know we were just talking about the differences. I would say Broker is the drama with sprinkles of comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas I found this as initially a comedy that had the sprinkles of drama in there. So maybe that's why it worked. Who knows? I think our interpretations of it have been pretty interesting so far. So before we break down sort of, I guess, the Japan being, so Tokyo being the location and sort of the influence of Japanese cinema on there, I kind of want to, without spoiling too much, talk about the ending as well, because although it is animated, there were elements of it that I think I didn't enjoy, and it kind of took me out a little bit. I think the level of intensity it goes to, the car chase, kind of didn't work for me. I would like to get your thoughts on that as well, how we felt about where the film ends up going.
I didn't mind it.
Yep.
I think because it starts pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And just ends up more ridiculous. I think maybe if it had started pretty grounded and, the first half an hour was, this really down to earth story of these 3 homeless people trying to find, this baby a home, and then it started getting a bit silly, I'd be like, okay, what's happening here? What kind of movie is this?
Yep.
But it's, like you said, it almost starts like a 7 out of 10 for ridiculousness.
Yeah, totally.
And it ends up at an 11. But I think because it's only a relatively small jump. But I can understand how it does get a little bit silly towards the end.
I think silly as well, potentially for me, compared to where the story goes, and when there's the introduction of another character and their involvement with the baby and sort of where that storyline goes. I did find that, I did love that aspect of it, and I actually was quite emotionally involved and a little bit distraught, I guess, like in a good way, like distraught in a good way, but where that story went, I just felt like that small bit of it, those small events, like with the car chase stuff leading up to it, kind of took away from that a little bit. I think the seriousness of that subject matter, and then obviously where the climactic element of the film ends up to and how that is resolved, just didn't mix as well for me, because obviously, and I'm talking more specifically about a bit where a character grabs onto a thing and falls off a building, and I was like, I get it. Like, and to me, I was like, it's funny because it's like, that's how most Christmas movies would sort of take it as well. But I think just after the conversation that was had between those characters literally 30 seconds before and how intense that was, that was a bit too much whiplash for me personally.
Yeah. The bit where, comes down on that. I actually really liked that bit.
It's funny. It is funny.
Actually, it kind of piques me up again a bit, that one. But probably
I just like the depression, Josh.
It probably just brought me like back into the kind of Christmas miracle-y thing, totally, I guess. Yeah.
And the final scene, the final scene is absolutely the epitome of the Christmas feeling, right?
Yeah, really nice. Yeah.
Anything else to add before we go into sort of Tokyo as the location or Japan as the Because I think that's obviously a big part of the film, is that Tokyo does feel like a character in this film, and we are seeing it from the most obvious street level with homeless characters as well. So I thought that the design of Tokyo was fantastic. I thought being able to see all these different parts, we see we see the slums where the homeless people live. We're on trains then we're in high society with this big dinner event. Then we're in hospitals and homes that are nice and homes that are decrepit and run down. So it gave me a great idea of all of Tokyo. Did you both feel the same way?
Yeah, I went there this year.
Oh, yes, you did too. Yeah.
Resident expert now.
Yeah. But it was really interesting to see all the backgrounds, just all the places that they go to, like even little bits where they're kind of sat in. It almost looks like there's a printer in front of them. They're just sat along a little bench. Like that's kind of in all the 7-Elevens there. There's throwbacks to all their food. Like it's really spot on.
Nice.
Like you kind of
cool.
it and obviously it's a Japanese movie, but they really get the essence of Tokyo. Like that's cool. And on the trains, how they're all squished up against the windows.
Yes,
that happened to us once.
Yeah,
like
what an experience.
Pete, oh man, like you like no one else can get on this train, and the doors open, and then 50 more people get on a train, and it's just like you are all literally like this.
You're
and
best
how
friends.
They're kind of so now they're all on phones, but obviously 2003.
Right. Yeah.
It was really interesting to see how, especially in an animation, how well they got Tokyo.
I think you said the right word there is the essence. It absolutely captures the essence of Tokyo.
Yeah. I think like any big city, you think of like New York or London or Paris that often feature in films and how much of a character the cities play. Especially New York. I feel like every film set in New York, makes you know that it's set in New York. But and London's the same, I find. And I think Tokyo is a massive city. I think it's the actual area of it, the population. It's huge. But I think it really captures, like you said, the soul of it, the essence of it. And it does feel really alive. Like while these characters are going about their, this epic adventure, the city's still sort of moving at its own pace and things are happening around them. And like you said, we see it from a really different perspective of people living on the streets.
It almost feels like from a bottom-up view, right? Absolutely. I think it's very unique. And obviously another uniquely Japanese element is the use of haikus throughout the film as well. Well, I believe it is Hannah who says all of them. And to me, it almost acted like bookends for each chapter of and this film isn't divided up into chapters. There's no like chapter 1, finding the baby, blah, blah, blah. But every time there was a haiku, it to me sort of wrapped up that series of events that they'd gone into. And then the final haiku obviously is the big closing about, Christmas and family and whatnot as well. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I liked that. Yeah. I
think they were quite beautiful, I think, to put it nicely. I never get right what a haiku is. Like I know everyone talks about it's a poem that has to have a certain number of syllables or words.
So it's 575. Right. So 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables.
Right.
I think that's all it requires to be.
And I love how they pop up on the screen, usually on the right-hand side of the screen, and the text scrolls down in Japanese for the haiku as well. A fun little thing, and I'm wondering if you guys saw it as well, when the title card comes up, Tokyo Godfathers, and then some events happen through the city, and then a truck pulls up in front of them, and there's writing on the truck. And I wouldn't have known this unless it came up in the subtitles, but it said directed by Satoshi Kon.
The opening credits are awesome.
They're unreal how they're just utilized in the city, right?
I love opening credits like that that use some sort of like imaginative way to show the the cast and the crew. Like I always think of I always think of it, but I can't think of the film off the top of my head. David Fincher always does really good.
Fincher does great opening.
I think about Seven and The Killer and things like that. And he always does really good ones where he incorporates, either incorporates it into the environment or...
The best one of all time is Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Where that's one of my favorite opening credits scenes of all time.
Yeah. So I always love when films, get a bit imaginative and play with that.
Are you thinking Panic Room is the one where he has it like all the words in the city? Like
I feel like I am, which
Panic
makes sense
Room
because I only watched Panic Room once because it's not his best film. But
hey, that's true.
But you're not wrong. It probably is Panic Room. And there was a film recently, I think, that did it really well of things sort of moving across a table.
Well, Delicatessen did a really good one.
Delicatessen did a fantastic job of that. Yeah.
So I love films that do that, and Tokyo Godfathers does that really well of incorporating it into
does.
like signage and things like that.
It's cool as well how like you get this whole start of the movie, and then the opening credits almost just roll into the like
So seamlessly,
as
right?
you say, like without knowing what the words are, you don't know that these are credits yet, and then the subtitles start coming up.
This is
the opening credits,
which is very, very well done. Is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on? Is there any points you wanted to bring up in regards to Tokyo Godfathers? Obviously, it's a very, spirit-filled movie, Christmas spirit-filled movie. I think the characters, do we have a favorite character? Is anyone who stood out? This is a tough one because the three main characters are fantastic. Yeah. They're also unique as well.
Yeah. It's a really good trio.
It's a great trio.
We've talked about trios on here before.
Yeah.
Trios really work.
Yeah,
they do.
And you just have three really different characters, and it's just such a great story where one little coincidental thing really starts to bring them together, and they don't mean like they're sort of against each other with what they want to do with it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
But then
yeah.
each one has a bit of time with the baby, and they start to come together. It's just really nice.
It is very sweet.
I think the thing is with three characters as well is it's sort of the perfect amount for them to bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like if you have, a duo, like you really only butting heads against the one person.
And a duo, you know inevitably that at some point in the film the duo will split. Like that is just storytelling 101, right? With the trio, you kind of don't know that. And it's funny because the split in this film is completely it's not unintentional. It's not because of any inner conflicts. They're split by another outside coincidental event. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the fact that despite that they are butting heads, that they are all larger than life, they're very strong personalities, all three characters. Yeah. That the point that they split was not due to their indifferences, but it was because of something else. Which kind of also made their longing to get back together even sweeter. Like the need to reunite once they get split up sort of halfway through the film is kind of endearing. And
I mean, they start to realize that, you don't know until you lose something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I think
what a sweet movie.
I think as I finished the film, Hannah was probably my favorite, but I think on reflection, Jin.
I love Jin.
I actually really love his story arc. I think he's the main punch of the.
There's a big heartbreak when you kind of realize that his embellishment of how he became homeless is a big pride-based thing as well, and sort of, and which to me it screams, middle-aged man in the early 2000s. You were probably brought up in a time where pride and ego, you can't be a weak man, but his actions caused the dismantling of his family, and it's heartbreaking when it's revealed. But I think because you've already seen a man trying to redeem himself for however long into the movie that says, you want him to be better. And that's what I think, that scene where he is just speaking to the other drunk old man. Yeah. You immediately go like, this is not the life you want for this character. Yeah. But I'm the same as you. Hannah, hilarious.
Oh, so funny.
So funny. Like there was not a beat missed with her humor. So that was what I thought.
I think Hannah is the heart of the film for me. Because I think she loves Jin in, we're not really sure whether it's sort of a romantic or a platonic way. Yeah. But she obviously has a deep care for him.
I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think even looking back at when we were talking about the homophobic slurs earlier as well, the idea that at one point Hannah who seems around the similar age of Jin, was probably a man in that time as well. You know what I mean? And probably understands. The reason I feel like she has such a good relationship with Jin is because she always understands where he's coming from as well. And I think that strengthens their bond quite a lot. Sorry, that's just like a random thought that I had. Yeah.
And I think she's obviously very maternal towards Miyuki, who's like I said, like a teenage runaway who's left home.
Yeah.
But she's like she's way more optimistic than the other two. Like Jin's obviously very pessimistic.
very
Miyuki's like, edgy, rebellious teenager type thing.
Filled with energy and like that. Yeah.
But Hannah's so like full of hope and love, and like she's like this baby is a Christmas miracle and everything's perfect and we're gonna find it a home and life's great and it doesn't matter that I'm homeless and and I just love that optimism.
Yes.
And like you said, the haikus, which just I think shows that different side to her as well.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of, obviously it's harder to talk about performances with voice acting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
but as I said before, the voice actress for Miyuki was fantastic. Like I just love the sass that she captured, like when Jin and Hannah would be arguing and then Miyuki would just be like, shut up, like stop being dumb. Like why are we trying to keep a baby that we found in a dumpster? What is wrong with you people?
we can barely look after ourselves.
Oh God. It's great. It's just such a sweet movie. I think the quickest of elevator pitch is that it's a beautiful movie that, like Josh said, captures the essence of Tokyo, but has that additional added Christmas spirit in there. So it's endearing, it's delightful, it's happy, but it's not afraid to tackle quite heavy thematic human stories, which is something I didn't anticipate from an animated film, but the use of animation in it sort of heightens that and really allows you to connect with these characters. So,
and this isn't just a film set at Christmas. This is a Christmas film.
It's absolutely a Christmas film.
I know people get into that debate of what is and isn't a Christmas film. Yeah. This is a Christmas film.
It's absolutely
so add it to your roster because it's probably better than 90% of the Christmas films that you're watching.
The Dutch Hallmark movies.
I wouldn't say it like there's not Christmas trees everywhere. It's not that sort of Christmas, but the theme of it is
Yeah, and I think those themes of family and connection and coincidence, that's so Christmassy.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think if this was someone's first animated Japanese film, because obviously Japanese animation and I think modern American animation is very different. Japanese animation still tends to favor a lot of hand-drawn.
Right.
Which this is predominantly hand-drawn with a little bit of CGI.
Isn't it? Hey.
But obviously modern American animation is very much digital.
Yes.
Do you think it would be a hard watch for someone if it was their first animated film? Like, would you recommend going for something more, like a Spirited Away or something first?
Question. I probably would. I'd probably go to, because I think I feel like there just needs to be a little bit of a bridge between the westernized animation and Japanese animation, and Studio Ghibli films are the best bridge for that as well. Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle is probably something I would absolutely watch first. I think as well, just tonally, because like I said, my assumption coming into it was that there but I'm so used to the fantasy elements, the supernatural elements, the action elements of Japanese animation that in a good way I was kind of taken off guard by how grounded this really, really was until a point. I think the mixture of that human emotion, that grounded emotion, and the fantastical elements are the Studio Ghibli films. And then moving on to Satoshi Kon after that as well. Because this isn't necessarily it's an easy watch, but it's not necessarily it's not like a Christmas film like Elf.
No.
You're not throwing it on just because I feel like you are going to be drawn into this story. Even Love Actually, to a point. It's just happy. It's just like pulling at the heartstrings in the most obvious way, whereas Tokyo Godfathers is a lot more nuanced. So I think there has to be a bit of a bridge, but it's necessary.
I mean, I agree. Without seeing his other film, I'm definitely interested to see.
Paprika and Perfect Blue, definitely.
For sure,
100%. I think. I mean, they've sort of been on my radar for a long time. I'd love to watch those at some point. I think this has made me want to actively now seek those out.
Yeah, I agree.
This is funnily enough as well Satoshi Kon's longest film at 92 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So he's
a man after my own heart.
He's already a winner in our hearts.
I did also notice he has not done a film for a long time.
He passed away.
Sorry,
guys. Sorry, that was very matter of
lazy
fact.
bastard.
He 2010, I believe, of pancreatic cancer.
Right,
right. He was
God, he was only 46.
Yeah, so pancreatic cancer, and he was actually working on a film that's still unfinished to this day. There's talk of
that's funny. Yeah, because I went on and it's got upcoming projects.
So they're doing I know they're doing a Perfect Blue adaptation, or they've been talking about it for a long time, and I think Darren Aronofsky has been attached to that at some point. But there was a movie that is unfinished that there is a creative team who have said for almost 15 years now that they are going to work on it, but it just hasn't happened. So yeah. But it's a small filmography. I think there's only a couple of movies and a TV show in there as well, and a couple of shorts. So, but I mean, judging based on the reactions, all winners, to be honest. So
yeah, I mean, even just looking here, Millennium Actress, which I've heard of as well.
That's the other one I was trying to think of. Yeah.
So he did that after Perfect Blue and before Tokyo Godfathers, and then he did Paprika in 2006.
So Satoshi Kon definitely, if
hit it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean, out of control good. So, I think if it's your first time going into Japanese animation, just find that Ghibli bridge first, a bit more accessible, and then. But I think that's just telling of us as well, like having this is our first Satoshi Kon films, despite knowing and having watched lots of Japanese animation before. I think it's quite telling that it's nice that we've discovered it now. I think people should take a similar journey, so to say.
Funnily enough, as well, the film was written by Satoshi Kon and co-written by Kihiko Nobumoto, who wrote Cowboy Bebop.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay.
That's
cool.
Cowboy Bebop is a absolutely fantastic animated series from I feel like late 90s, early 2000s, I want to say.
90s,
I was just looking here, 1998,
And that's awesome. It's like, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's like, space bounty hunters.
Don't watch the Netflix adaptation.
Don't watch the Netflix adaptation.
Watch the anime.
Yeah, I hear
please.
a lot of people going.
It's awesome. It's super cool, like very sort of like, like neo-noir.
Very neo-noir. Yeah.
But like
it's
sci-fi.
It's just a great mix of all genres, I think.
It's super cool. And it makes, I can see the influence, because Cowboy Bebop's quite funny as well, but also really dark at times.
It can be,
So yeah, it's a great film. I enjoyed it. Shall we
Star rating?
I'm going to go 4.
Yep. Which means in 6 months it'll be a 5. Next Christmas it'll be a 5. Yeah. How about yourself, Josh?
I think I'd probably be about 3.5 for this.
Yeah. I'm at a 3.5 too. It was a 4 for me probably until the ending. But it's incredibly sweet. It's incredibly endearing. And as much as I do love the characters and I do enjoy the coincidental nature of the story, I just think it lost me a little bit towards the end. So, but it's still, I think, absolutely essential.
Oh, yeah.
Japanese animation viewing as well. Like if you're going to pick the handful at this point in time, and who knows, Paprika and Perfect Blue might take that spot. But this is just a sweet movie. It's so nice. So yeah.
And I think if you're the kind of person who, like a lot of us, probably watches the same handful of films every Christmas to get yourself in the Christmas, like add this to your roster.
By the way, since it's a Christmas episode,
for me, Love Actually definitely. If it was up to my partner, The Holiday, but I cannot stand.
Don't worry,
The Holiday.
I came home to Rhiannon watching that last night. In fairness, I'd just gone and seen Big Shark by Tommy Wiseau, and I still think I was the winner in that situation. But yeah, The Holiday's always.
Have you seen The Holiday?
Yeah.
If the film was only the story between Kate Winslet and Jack Black, I'd probably actually really like it.
If the movie was 40 minutes shorter, it'd be great.
And if you just got rid of Cameron Diaz entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, still have Jude Law there just for the eye candy because, oh my God, what a beautiful man. But Cameron Diaz, she can get in the bin.
She's got to make a big comeback, didn't you know that? So,
sorry, Cameron, regular listener of the show.
Fine words, yeah.
What else do we normally watch? Home Alone.
Yeah.
First two, obviously. Though I controversially think the second film is better than the first one.
No, I think there's a few people who share that opinion as well.
No, I'm not as edgy as I think.
Is it because Donald Trump's in it? Is that why?
That's the main reason.
Kevin, thank you for coming to my hotel. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was going to say. We all established there's only one impersonation I can do. And we might cover him on the show one day because technically he's an international director.
Do you do a bad impression? Because I do a bad Michael Caine. He does a bad everyone.
No,
shit.
I don't get.
What about what's your Christmas rotation?
I try and watch new stuff generally, stuff that I haven't seen. I will definitely put on probably a Home Alone, an Elf.
Elf is huge.
Is usually there, but yeah, I try and just grab a few ones I haven't seen.
Elf is up there.
Like kind of try and get an old classic in there.
Well, we watched The Apartment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Billy Wilder and Jack Lemmon, a 1960. Yeah, best picture winner. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Great film. Okay. Yeah. It's like 60 years old, but the humor in it holds up so well, which I find is hard with older films.
It's so long. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Definitely recommend it. And I mean, we are probably going to watch, because I've never seen it, It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Which I mean is like the quintessential Christmas film.
That a couple of years ago.
So that's probably going to get done between now and
controversially,
Christmas.
I like that movie. I don't love it, but I like it.
I mean, it's Especially watching an 80-year-old film as well. Like it's hard. And then we watched for the first time the other day Klaus.
Oh, it's so good.
Amazing.
I haven't seen it. That's the animated one, right?
Yeah. So it came out in like 2019 on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. That was great.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's like the Santa origin story.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's really good.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. What's on your regular rotation?
Elf is on there. I'm a diehard apologist. I will watch Die Hard over Christmas.
Oh, of course. Cool.
But I also watch every year the greatest adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And in fairness, should be the only adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And that's A Muppets Christmas Carol. That is the funniest Christmas movie ever made. And it's not just because I'm obsessed with the Muppets. I love the Muppets. But that movie only works because Michael Caine is legitimately giving an Oscar-worthy performance in that film.
Well, that's the thing is like when you've got real live action actors acting alongside the Muppets, it's either like an actor pretending they're a Muppet.
I got to read this quote for you because he's spoken about it before and he said, so the quote was, Michael Caine said this about the movie. I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I'm going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. And that's it. Either people play the part like they're a Muppet themselves or they play like their co-stars aren't Muppets. They're in fact, theatre actors.
It's perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So I love that film. And that's Christmassy time for us. But if you're watching on the YouTube, on the internet.
I'm
70 years old.
This bit's going to be really dull for the podcast listeners. Well, sorry, guys.
No, I think based on what laughter could ensue, they could be. But it's incentive to go watch on YouTube. So, but you have seen these lovely little Christmas presents at the front of our desk here, and we've done a secret Santa, so to say. So we don't know what any of us have bought for each other. I'm thinking. Perhaps so. That's Kieran's. That's
we gave
Josh.
each other a week to sort this out as well,
which is a long time for us. That's quite actually that's organised for this podcast. But I don't know how we want to do this. Should I flip a coin or something and see who gets to open the first? Or you can just pick the one you want to open. If I go heads or tails,
we didn't think about this.
No, we didn't. No, because basically, all right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do a coin flip on the computer. This is riveting content. All right, whoa, okay, hold on. Heads or tails?
Heads.
Riveting. It's tails. So Josh, you get to pick the first.
I pick.
You pick between these two as to which one.
I mean, you can pick your
open.
own if you want.
Well, yeah, if it's good enough. Yeah, pick it, mate. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to go with this beautiful.
Oh, wonderfully wrapped. So that's Kieran's present to Josh, and then obviously you get mine and I get Josh's.
The cover has taken me.
That's hefty.
That's hefty. Who wants to go first? Who wants to open their present?
Josh, you pick first. You go first.
Right,
so
this won't take long.
The Secret Santa from Kieran. Lovely wrap.
Isn't it?
I can't take credit for that.
And what did we get?
File
card game. That's not. That's actually a nice gift.
Yeah, it is very good.
Now mine's gonna be shit.
Wait till you see yours, Nick. I am kind of glad Nick got that one. But it would have been funny for you to get it. But,
I think we're gonna have to play this game on the show.
So, are you guys familiar with this?
No.
So, this is something that my partner got me a couple of years ago,
wow.
and I thought that either of you guys would absolutely love this. It's basically just a deck of cards with actors and films on it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different games that you can play with it. So one that you can play, for example, is you pull out a card that's an actor. It might be Nick Cage. Someone has to name a Nick Cage film. So say Con Air. Yep. Then someone has to name a film, an actor that's in Con Air.
Nice.
And so you might say John Malkovich, and then someone has to say a film that John Malkovich was in.
Being John Malkovich.
Oh,
and then you name someone who was in Being John Malkovich. So
That's great.
It's awesome. And it's,
Oh, wow, that sounds
I think you play it with people who know films.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
Nice.
My mother notoriously is the worst to play this for because she doesn't get into the spirit of the game, right? I try and pick something that someone will know an answer to so you can keep the game going, right?
Yeah.
So someone says Leo, you say The Departed. You don't say something. You don't say The Beach. My mum's there to win, right? Someone says Michael Caine, Jaws 4. Mum, no one else has seen Jaws 4. Don't care. I win.
We know for a fact Michael Caine has never seen Jaws.
No, he's seen the house.
He's seen the house. Well, that's a lovely
That
gift.
is.
I feel like shit
good.
now because
You guys suddenly want to nip to the shop.
Yeah, I was like, can we postpone this Christmas recording to next Christmas? Would you like to go next?
I'll open mine. This is from
I'm just
you?
going to say this is from me. It's a practical gift, and it's based on a common theme that's happened within the show over the last year. So this may come in handy. It's a very
I'm just going to
practical
tear
gift.
right into this.
No,
like
please
a complete
do. Please
savage.
do. I'm shocked it didn't happen today.
No, today of all days.
But normally someone rocks up to the show hungover.
Yeah. So that's
So what have we got?
The ultimate hangover cure.
So it's a big fucking bottle of High and a packet of Panadol Rapid.
excellent.
I feel like that's going to have to be communal with
I think
yeah.
we'll leave it in the fridge here and we can take some sips every time we're hungover.
because it's always one of us.
Yes.
We definitely don't have a
Kieran,
drinking problem.
I'm buying your breakfast. I feel terrible. I feel awful. Okay, well, this is absolutely
just
lovely.
gonna say these are
no, I'm excited.
random.
I'm excited. So there's two presents here
There
as well,
is,
Josh.
yep.
So you've gone over and above.
And I was under the $20.
How good.
Under
actually.
budget.
Under budget.
I'll just say I actually spent $22. So
How expensive was Hydrolite going?
yeah, it was on special. You know what? I'm going to say this. It's a Labyrinth coffee mug.
It is.
I've never seen Labyrinth.
Neither have I.
So, I mean, I'm going to have
But I
to
love
now.
David Bowie.
I mainly
That
got
little
it because
that
of
baby is
how
in the
ugly
film.
that mug is. Look how ugly that mug is.
You do know that now every time we have coffee on the show, we're going to be
Exactly.
using the Labyrinth. And now.
And I thought of Nick when I saw this,
Oh
but I
my
thought,
fucking God, dude.
but I thought,
What possessed you? Well, for the audience at home, we have a new mascot for the show, and it is Black Adam. Welcome to the show, Dwayne.
I know how much you love the film.
Well, you know what? I do own it on Steelbook.
Only person in the world who probably owns a steelbook
Yeah.
of
I am
Black
the reason
Adam.
that movie had
So I
any
thought,
chance
now
at the
you can
box
be
office.
the only one that owns the cigarette. They were all on sale, I'll
You know
tell
what?
you that.
I'll tell you
Some
what.
kid at Christmas time opening up his present is like, and Dad's like, "Oh, I got you your favorite superhero." He's like, "Oh my God, you got me Black Adam." It's like The Simpsons when Bart opens. It's like, "I got you the game every boy wanted." Lee Carvel's putting challenge.
Putting challenge. Well, look. In fairness, Dwayne Johnson's just signed on to an A24 movie, so he's on the right track to end up potentially on this podcast one day. If, you know,
He's going Dave Bautista mode.
He's going Dave Bautista, and he may just do a foreign film one day. So, and when he does, we'll be having him front and center. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you. Oh, boys, that's fucking gold. Well, Merry Christmas to you both.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of you out there. Thank you all for your support. Fucking hell. That's gold. Thank you all for your support of the show this year. We started it just to have some fun, and now we've had viral episodes like All Quiet on the Western Front, It's Mama Tabien. I very well listened to episodes, and your feedback and response to it's been great. So we obviously we'll be coming back next year and continuing the show and going from strength to strength. But we have a lot of fun. Well, I'll speak for all of us. We have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, but just to see new movies that, you don't think of yourself.
Totally. It's been fun for us.
And then get to have a chat about it.
Yeah.
Also, quickly, shout out to Josh's partner, Susie, who's just has made fruit mince tart from scratch. So, I mean, sorry, I was just staring at them. I was like, they look fantastic. So
We're all much less impressive than the people we've somehow managed to end up with.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's we absolutely know we're punching. We're punching Barry.
The things we have in common. We love films,
Black Adam, so
and we're all punching above our weight.
Yeah.
and that's why we work so well together on this podcast, on this show. But once again, look, have a safe Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year to everyone, and we will be back January 1st, the first Monday of the year, with our January episode, which, as was revealed, was my pick, and it is the Hong Kong film Infernal Affairs. So if you get time over Christmas, over the Christmas break to watch Infernal Affairs, do it. Come back January 1st, and you'll hear a brand new episode from us. But all of our social links are in the bio, the description below. You can find us, see what we're doing over Christmas, which I'm assuming is just drinking, eating, and doing a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So if you like watching that content, then follow us on social media. But until next time, Merry Christmas. See you in 2024. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.